Hey there, thanks for tuning in to my final presentation. Today I'll be discussing student discourse in the secondary English classroom. Before I begin, I just want to introduce myself. As many of you know, my name is Jamie Hedlun, and I teach at Meade High School in Longmont, Colorado. Up on the screen there is my personal email as well as my school email and my Twitter handle. So if any of you would like to stay in touch after our class, please do. So my discussion today will mainly go over, why did I choose the research scope that I did, a brief review of my literature, and I'll move into methods, results, and some interpretation of those results, as well as a brief reflection. All right, so I chose this study because I've just always been curious about classroom discussions. I recognize in myself as a learner that I learn best through discussion. And I have found over the last few years of teaching that I truly just enjoy getting on the level of my students and learning alongside with them. So we might be discussing paradox in literature. And with my ninth graders, I can sit down and ask them questions and have them ask me questions and just sit in a group of kids who really want to make connections to a text and make those connections to themselves. So just as a teacher and a learner myself, I'm interested in how to create strong discussions in my own classroom. The sample I chose was definitely a convenient sample. It was 19 students from one of my honors English 9 classes. So, just like you would imagine, they're all pretty motivated by grades and they tend to perform better than their grade level peers. My major takeaways here are that different types of structured discussions work at different points of a unit. And I'll go into that a little bit more later. So, in my literature review, I basically looked into what are Socratic seminars and then what is the Padilla seminar. The Padilla seminar is based on Socratic seminars. Socratic seminars are essentially meant to give students an equal voice in the classroom, just like this high school English teacher says here on your screen. In order to create truly equitable learning communities, teachers need to be able to pass the control over, and that what might appear to be random chaos to the naked eye in the hallway is actually this careful implementation of discussion. I also looked into why teachers struggle with discussions in general. Sorry, you guys, I'm recording this after school, so there's lots of announcements going on. But anyways, I looked into why teachers struggle with this, and most of them just cite that there's a lack of student engagement, poor quality of reasoning. They just can't seem to get students to really buy into these seminars, and I've struggled with that with some classes as well. So the Padilla seminar, like I said, is based on the Socratic seminar, but there is much more of a protocol in place. So there's opening and closing questions. And those are two of the three levels of questioning. So the open questions are designed to get participants to engage at a more personal level. And then there's these core questions, which involve like closer analysis of whatever text they're reading. And then the third level is supposed to be this evaluative piece. And in all honesty, I'm still working on that third level of questioning in my own classroom, but it's definitely something that sets it apart from a typical Socratic seminar. My seminars are normally fishbowl style, where I have one group of students on the inside and one on the outside, and I will have the outside group sort of observe and take notes on the inside group and then have kids switch. But I have, since doing this research, moved a little bit away from that. So, of course, the literature showed me that more research needed to be done. There also hasn't been a lot of new research on the Padilla method in the last 8 years, but it did show me that this new type of seminar offers hope for a lot of these common problems, again, lack of student engagement being one of them, and that this type of seminar hands control over to students. So in order to study this, I kind of have three layers. I took observation notes just as any teacher would, and then I gave the same pre, mid, and post survey, and I collected pre and post assessment data. So my survey it's in front of you. It's based on 8 questions where students had to rank their response in the never, sometimes, often, and always columns. And as you can see, most of these questions definitely reflect on students' perceptions of equity and fairness and whether or not they feel respected. The literature showed me that that too is a huge part of getting students engaged in classroom discussions. So the pre and post assessment was the same, and I took all of those indicators on the sheet there from Common Core 9th and 10th grade speaking and listening standards. And of course, I'm subjective as the classroom teacher, but I did my very best to remain as objective as possible in the position of assigning grades based on this. So the results varied, but overall, achievement data did demonstrate gains. The number of A's went from 2 to 6. The number of B's stayed the same. But several of those students went from a B to an A. And then the amount of C's and D's decreased with no more F's throughout this process. The perception of the strength of discussions did improve. You can see in front of you some of the narrative data I collected from students in their post-survey. The largest areas of increase were whether or not students felt structured discussions encouraged everyone to speak, and whether or not they felt their discussions were respectful. The number of students responding with sometimes in all of the areas decreased by at least 1, which is really good. Except in the one case of feeling safe, sharing personal reactions, the same number of kids admitted to feeling safe most of the time as they did prior. So the implications for this are pretty straightforward. I noticed that students' buy-in does increase when they know and understand the protocol ahead of time, and that is unsurprising. I also noticed that participation increases when students are asked to prep their own questions as opposed to me writing them for them, which I had been doing. And then students may not even realize that they're benefiting academically, though I saw gains, and those were neat conversations to have. The Padilla seminar works well, I think, further on in text. So in this case, we were reading The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cinceneros. And the Padilla seminar really took root as the kids grew more and more attached to the characters in our book. Whereas, again, this is just, I'm theorizing here, but the original Socratic fishbowl method seems to work really well at the beginning when you're introducing big ideas, thematic questions, and essential questions of that nature. So just a brief reflection here. I noticed that my kids were excited to try on a new format, and they loved that I was learning with them. I explained the action research process pretty briefly with them, but a lot of them were just excited to be a part of that. I think that obviously more research needs to be done outside of my convenient sample size, and that the research would probably benefit if it were more towards English language learners and special ed students in mixed classrooms. I'd really like to try this on in my other classes to see, if the results are similar or the same, or where they maybe are different. Anyways, I am really thankful for the opportunity to have been part of this class and to learn from all of you in our cohort. And I'm thankful that God just gave me the strength and the ability to work through our master's program, because this has been a lot of work. Sorry guys, ignore that announcement. I could probably get rid of that, but that's okay. Anyway, I'm so thankful to have been a part of this with you all, and please reach out to me if you have any questions or just want to stay in touch. Thank you.